All right, Barry, let's dive into consulting a little bit. Tell us a little bit about that.
Consulting has always sort of been a dirty word in some ways. I have to say, even now, it kind of like makes the hairs on my neck sort of like itch a little. And it certainly is a dirty word for someone like myself that kind of came out, thought of myself as a creative person, right? And like consulting, so those are the dudes who wear khakis and a little quarter zip, right? If I am a brand and I create an experience that all of my customers think is a real person and then they find out later that it's a bot, I think they're going to feel betrayed. And I think that they're going to feel a lot of anger toward my brand. And so to me, it's not like, can I do it? It's should I?
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Through with a Splash of Tea, a podcast where conversation is key. Today, we are joined by a very special guest, Barry Fiske. Barry Fiske is a senior experience transformation leader and chief creative officer with a passion for helping brands elevate their customer relationships and reimagine what's possible through bold combinations of design and technology. Over the course of his career, Barry's not only built and inspired high-performance teams, but also transformed companies' creative reputations, mentored next generation's talent, as well as brought to life cutting-edge solutions. So today, we'll explore all of Barry's past and future experiences and as he takes us through a journey of his expertise. Thank you very much, Barry, for your time.
Awesome. I'm pleased to be here, Cass. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. I'm so excited to hear your story and for you to share with us all of your experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so I like us to start at the very beginning.
Yeah.
I feel like your background or a person's background tells a lot about like what they have accomplished today and all that. Yeah. So take us back to your growing up, your family dynamic, how it was for you in the beginning years.
Yeah. So I grew up in Rochester, New York, which is on Lake Ontario, sort of like a Rust Belt city, basically. And my mom was a public school teacher, and my dad worked at Kodak. Basically, everybody in Rochester worked at Kodak. It was like a one company town. That's kind of how it was back then. And I grew up, and I kind of really fell in love with making things, and so I was a pretty creative person. And so when I went off to college, I went to Syracuse. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I liked making things. And so I went to the Newhouse School of Public Communications, and I thought maybe I was going to do something in politics and be like, like a speech writer or something like that. But I discovered advertising there, and that was really the thing that I kind of latched onto. I liked the idea of being able to make, at the time, magazine ads and television commercials and radio commercials, and kind of understanding what a brand was trying to say to customers, or like interesting ways to kind of introduce new products or services. And so that was really what I did first. I left Syracuse, and the first chapter of my career was really doing advertising. And I did that for, a while. I worked for a bunch of places that are still around today. Chiat Day is kind of a well-known place, Doyle Dane Bernbach, or DDB for people who know that. And I made big fancy television commercials and did all kinds of sort of fancy advertising stuff back in the day. And it was a lot of fun to it was my first real understanding of how creativity and business can kind of mix and can kind of create really interesting connections between brands, which just want to sell things really, and people who kind of like want to have their needs met. And so if you sort of talk about a product in a certain way or a service in a certain way, people would really feel a certain way about it and be much more drawn to it. So that was the first chapter. The second chapter of my career, though, really was around understanding the power of digital. And so when I was in advertising at Chiat, but certainly at DDB, the power of the internet was becoming really, really obvious. And I I started to try to get a lot of these advertising agencies to think about hiring technologists to understand some of the products and tools that we could do in digital and how that could be a part of, back then I kind of thought how it could be a part of marketing. And it was interesting because it was a huge pivot point for these companies that I was in originally. Like the business model of advertising was essentially being disrupted by digital. Yeah, you didn't have to sort of like discover things through advertising. You could kind of find out about them yourself on the internet or through things and people that you followed on the internet, and you could buy them directly from companies. You wouldn't have to go to the retailers as sort of e-commerce came along. And so it disrupted a lot of things. And even the way that we were consuming media started to change because of digital, right? You could skip those television commercials. You know, magazines started to lose their power and relevance because a lot of things that used to be in magazines and newspapers started to go into digital, right? And so people basically started to move into digital. And so I made a huge change there, and I joined a technology company. I joined a company called Sapient, which was building websites, building apps, building digital systems for brands. And I kind of like fell in love, not with basically changing someone's opinion through advertising, but actually sort of focusing on their behavior, which is something I could do through digital. I created tools for people. I created ways for people to do things for themselves. And I actually still sort of thought it was an extension of brand storytelling and brand building. Like I was able to kind of deliver on the promise of a brand through the tools that I made. And then the third chapter of my career, I think sort of where I am right now, is really the consulting side of things. So I talk a lot with small companies and then often really, really big companies about how they need to think about the messaging they're putting out in marketing, but also how they need to think about their digital ecosystem of services and products, how they're building it, how they are kind of like delivering something really meaningful for their customers through digital. And more importantly, how they can do it more efficiently, how they can do it with scale, how they can do it so everyone can participate in it, and how they really need to completely, in many cases, transform their business to operate so that it can take advantage of everything digital can do for them. That's the speech. How was that?
So good. That was so good. I wanted to stop you before we went into technology, but I was like, I need to know the rest of it. Like, I need to hear the rest. Okay, so we need to run this track back just a little bit.
Yeah.
So when you entered the advertising game, it was mainly ads were mainly put out in like magazines, but they were still on TV. They were on TV as well. Okay.
I mean, basically, the way that we thought about marketing back, you know, in the day was very much around, it's kind of the tax that people pay to get the entertainment that they want. And so they're willing to sit through television commercials. They're willing to leaf through magazine ads. They're willing to, you know, listen to wacky radio commercials because they want to hear the music, they want to read the articles, or they want to see like the crime drama or whatever.
Yeah.
And so the whole goal of a lot of the marketing back then was what we used to call disruption. Like people are going to ignore it because they kind of recognize, oh, here's the ad. I'm just going to go do something else. And I want to do something so creative, so shocking, so maybe thought-provoking or so emotional in that ad that they actually are going to get disrupted from whatever they're doing, right? It's a weird thing to think about now, though, because like people don't want to get disrupted. I'm just going to skip it. Do you know what I'm saying? And so when I moved into digital, I started to think much more about service. And so really what the way you get people to pay attention to you is you do something for them that nobody else can do, or you make something easier than anybody else can make it for them, or something like that. And so when you're creating products and services in digital, that's what you're trying to do. Like, hey, you don't have to drive all the way to the bank to get money. You can do all sorts of things with your phone. You can deposit your check by just taking a photo of it. And so all of those things that are just parts of life right now, in a way, those were really powerful ways for brands to engage with customers in a way that did not exist before those digital tools were invented.
So I know that it must have really rattled things when the web came around.
Yeah.
It changed the game because there was access to it, broadened like we were in a house originally, and then the web came and the walls came down, and so after years of focusing on how to perfect people's digestion of how to market to them in this facet, after years of that and focusing on that, and then the walls of your house fall down and everything opens. How did you switch your brain to be like, okay, I can tackle this beast that I don't even know how large it is. This World Wide Web thing, like how do you implement that?
Well, I think I consider myself sort of a creative person. I consider myself a creator more than I do any kind of traditional role in any of the businesses that I've been a part of. And I actually think that a lot of really smart, creative people have that same mindset. And so we're constantly reinventing ourselves anyways. Like when someone sort of quits their job to start their own business, they're reinventing themselves. And so that kind of bravery exists in a lot of people that I think are really creative, and certainly a lot of people that jumped into digital in the earlier days and now are sort of jumping into a lot of things with artificial intelligence and all that, which we can talk about. But I just think you kind of focus on what is the thing that I can do that actually adds the most value, and not focus so much on this is the thing that I am traditionally supposed to do next that means that I'm advancing in my career. Because that's somebody else's definition of success. And really, I think the most successful people I know are the ones that are guided more by their own internal compass that just focuses on value. And so I sort of felt like the thing that I was doing in advertising that I felt like I got pretty good at wasn't as valuable anymore. And that if I could make these other things that didn't on the face of it look as creative to maybe the cool advertising people I was hanging out with at the time, but I actually thought was more valuable to real people. And if I could bring my creativity to that, I thought it would be a better thing to do. And that's kind of guided me my whole career. I think it's been pretty successful to kind of have that mindset, to not worry about being the cool kid, to not worry about doing what I think a lot of your industry peers sort of say is the next step in your job, to actually listen internally and to kind of, more importantly, maybe look at what people are really deriving value from and focus on that. And that is what I think is going to make you successful.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
All right, Barry, let's dive into consulting a little bit. Tell us a little bit about that.
So consulting has always sort of been a dirty word in some ways. I have to say, even now, it kind of like makes the hairs on my neck sort of like itch a little. And it certainly is a dirty word for someone like myself that kind of came out. It's thought of myself as a creative person, right? And like consulting. So those are the dudes who wear khakis and a little quarter zip, right? Yes. And then, like, there's a lot of boat shoes in the closet, that kind of thing. But I recognize that really, consulting is actually really powerful, and I actually think it's more powerful than almost anything that I've ever done. And what I mean by that is, in most of the sort of creative businesses that I've been a part of, I feel like I'm on one side of the table and I am convincing someone on the other side of the table to do something. Like, I am a genius and here is this idea and I'm going to somehow seduce you into buying this idea. Consulting is different fundamentally because you're both on the same side of the table. And that's how it works. You go like, let's figure this out together. I don't know. I think, what do you think the problem is? Well, I think it's this. Like, what do you think the solution is? Well, I think it's this. And how do we kind of do this together? And honestly, what you do is you co-create with your clients. And if you look at it like that, you are way more valuable to someone when you are helping them be a better version of themselves as opposed to doing stuff for them. And so that's what consulting is, you know, and yes, I do own khakis, and yes, I have a phenomenal amount of quarter zip sweatshirts, and I got my logo right here on my shirt. I have backpacks with logos on it. I got the whole action figure consulting kit. That's right. No, I definitely, but I think it gets a bad rap because really what I like is it's a consultative way of adding value is really powerful because I think that it's about listening, it's about co-creating, it's about sort of this multiplicative power that you can have when you really partner with someone and together make something great, as opposed to a lot of the very traditional creator sort of business relationships, which is you hire a genius and they come in and do something and how dare you kind of criticize what they're doing and that kind of stuff. I like the consulting mindset. I actually think you make more creative things. In fact, yeah, when you sort of like partner together. Yeah. And so a lot of what I think about is like, how can I partner with people who are really great at running their core business, really great at kind of the day-to-day business, but often aren't really great at inventing the future of their business. And so that's kind of what I talk to them about. I'm able to come in, I think, as a consultant, and you bring what's called an outside-in perspective, right? A lot of people in businesses, they're trying to solve their problems themselves. But boy, it's tough when it's like insider, like everything, you sort of know how it got made, and this is the reason that happened. And while I know we've been trying hard on this, so let's keep trying. And when you kind of come in as an outsider, sometimes you can actually help people see themselves with a little bit of a clearer lens. You go like, no, this actually is a bad idea. And this other thing over here is actually a really good idea. And maybe you ought to do more of that and less of that. And you're kind of freer to tell the truth. You know, it's like Thanksgiving in my house. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone in the family is very nice to each other. And then someone comes in with a new girlfriend or whatever, and she tells the truth. Yep. So that can be valuable sometimes.
Instantly you hate her, but then later down the years, you're like, oh, you were so valuable. And she's still there. And now she's married in. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but so I think that's what I appreciate about it. It's still creative. I still make things. I make them with people, though. I make them with their customers, and I make things with them as an active participant. It doesn't feel like it's my idea. It feels like it's our idea. And we also both own the responsibility for making it successful, which is the other thing that I think is really powerful. It's very easy to, in a traditional creative business relationship, somebody sells you something and you're like, oh, that's not working. Those people, let's fire them and have someone else give it a shot. I think you're kind of in it together, basically, and you are sort of like working together to make it work. So
yesterday I was listening to, do you know Jordan Peterson?
Yeah.
So Joe Rogan recently had him on. I'm a big Peterson fan. So Joe Rogan recently had him on, and I was listening to their podcast just so I could survive through a workout yesterday, because if not, I'll die. And they brought up the conversation of debate versus, well, it wasn't versus. Joe Rogan essentially said that he doesn't like debates. And the reason he doesn't like debates is because it's like one side against the other, and everyone is you're just so focused on your own side. But the reason that he does his podcast the way he does is because it's such a conversational setting. Yeah. And conversation allows for collaboration, allows people to work together and discuss through something versus I'm trying to get you on my side. And I feel like that's the beauty of consulting. That's what it is. You're in a conversational space and you're able to grow together versus I'm on sales and I'm on one side and I want you to buy this ad.
100%. Yeah. It's a little bit like improv, right? Where you have a conversation and you're never allowed to disagree. If you're really doing improv, you don't disagree and you build on everything that everybody else sort of says. You yes and it, right? I think that inherently people want to do the right thing. People want to sort of find the best solution. And so if you become an enabler of that, helping them find the best solution, not you coming in with the best solution and then sort of like demanding that they buy it. You're going to get more buy-in and you're going to get commitment to kind of follow through and make it work. and you are going to become way more valuable to that person. So I love consulting for that reason. Yeah.
But on the flip side, this, and I won't be a dead horse. I just want to say this because I love playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I can understand why it might have a bad rap because because a lot of consulting is conversation, and people can get swindled, or people can learn to be a swindler in conversation. Not easily, but it has been done, and it has a history of that. Well, so I get that.
Yeah. I mean, look, we sometimes joke that when you look at some consulting firms, it really does look like their job is to find out what the CEO wants to do and then reverse engineer an argument about why that's the right thing to do. Do you know what I'm saying? Yes. As opposed to actually coming in and kind of working with the people who are on the ground and trying to sort of like co-create some really sort of game-changing solutions for a business. And so when you're just sort of like a yes man a little bit, which is sort of what I'm referring to in that former bit, where you just, okay, this is the boss, they're the one writing the check, so I'm just going to come up with whatever argument will prove that the boss's opinion is correct, and they'll probably keep me around for a little while. That isn't a valuable thing. And so I do think that that is a little bit of what colors some of the consulting as a problem. But I would say there's good and bad in kind of every sort of like business, but the idea of being a consultative partner or a consultative seller or a consultative sort of like solution or creator, I think is the right thing to do no matter what business you're in. So,
which is true.
Yeah.
100% true. All right, we're going to get into Merkle.
Yeah.
Let us know what is Merkle. Let everyone know that they're like, I know about Barry Fiske, but what's on his shirt? What's going on?
Yeah. Why am I wearing my Merkle shirt? So Merkle is awesome. Merkle is where I am serving as the Chief Experience Officer for Merkle in the Americas right now. And it's a great business. It's a great company. We are in the sort of digital business transformation consultancy space, which if there's a more consultancy sort of like phrase out there, I challenge you to find it. But I've got lots of slides that say things like that. But we're a global business, and we help big companies basically create the digital tools, the digital systems, the digital services, the back-end technology systems that they need to really compete and win in the basically what we call the global experience economy. And that's what we would argue everyone is competing in right now, that this is not an economy of like who makes a great product or who makes a great service. That people, there are often a lot of really good products and a lot of really good services. And the reason one wins and one loses is the experience that surrounds it. And so you've got to actually deliver that cup of coffee in a way that feels like an experience. Otherwise, the coffee down the street is going to be viewed as exactly the same as yours. So Merkle is a lot of fun because it started as a data company. And so it did a lot of work in its early days, sort of building up huge databases of people to be able to do direct mail and to be able to do that kind of targeted marketing, which is really powerful. And here we are today in sort of the digital economy, and what makes a really powerful experience, like what I was talking about, is when you interact with a brand and the brand has a sense of who you are and a sense of what you've done with them before and kind of remembers you. That makes it really nice. Like, how frustrated are you when you go, you were looking for something and you're shopping for it, and then you're like half sort of like deciding what you want, and then you go away for a couple of days and you come back and it's like, oh my God, I have to start all over again, right? It's awesome when that experience goes like, hey, I think you left off here. In the same way that I can watch half a movie on Netflix on my laptop and then finish it on my TV and then sort of watch the credits on my phone, and it sort of knows where I left off. So being able to create experiences and consult with brands within a company that owns a huge amount of data and understands how to help our companies, our clients, leverage their own customer data to create these highly personalized digital experiences. It's the reason I'm at Merkle. So a lot of these other companies that do some of the design work that my teams do or the consulting work that my teams do, they don't have that data experience. And so they're kind of coming in and they aren't able to consult at the same degree around really how to understand who your audience is, who you're talking to, how to be really safe with that data, and how to recognize exactly what they need in that moment. So the Merkle business is fun. I get to work with creative people all across North America. I've got a team in India. I've actually got 2 teams in India. I've got a team in Brazil. And then we collaborate with our teams in Europe. It's so much fun. You get to talk to and work with incredible designers and writers and experienced designers and technologists who live all around the world, who come together and work on the same team. And we make amazing stuff for our clients. It's really exciting.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's a dream.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
All day you're talking to people from around the world and just creating with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And you find out everyone else is a whole lot cooler than you are. That's what you find out. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely a double-edged sword. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like going off to my siesta and you're like, oh, well, gonna go send some more emails.
No, it's fun. I mean, just look at today. Today I was on the phone with a couple of people from Pune and Bangalore, India, and a woman from Brazil. And then I just did a call with a bunch of people in Copenhagen. And now here I am here in Framingham, Mass. Yes! Framingham, Mass with you. Just as cool as Copenhagen.
Oh my God, a trip around the world in like 3 hours. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I love that for
It'll be good. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's talk about the advancement of technology.
Yeah.
You've seen so much. I need a timeline a little bit. Yeah. So when you entered the advertising world, it was the 90s, 80s.
Oh my God. It's
the 90s.
Now you're going to make me look really old.
No.
I'll do it.
No, we don't have to give exact dates.
So look, I started my career in advertising in 88.
Okay, so the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my advertising was pretty much the 90s.
Okay.
And then I really sort of transitioned into digital and digital experience in sort of the 2000s.
Because that's when the web was big, the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was big and then it crashed and then it was big again. Yes.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of that. But yeah. And then really I've been doing this kind of work, I would argue, for the past 10 years. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you've truly seen the transition of technology.
Yeah. So I've been through so basically the business, really the creative business that I've been in has always been around riding waves of technology. Even the advertising business, if you think about it, really, the technology was radio. It was sort of like mass publication. It was television and then cable and then all of that kind of stuff. And then early digital, it started to be, the internet and the ability to kind of have richer experiences online with things like Flash and sort of actual animation, and then ability to stream video. And then, the invention of the mobile, frankly, the sort of like high-speed internet, sort of like mobile internet, and then the mobile devices, that was a massive transformational wave. And then there have been like waves of platform technologies, a lot of the things that Adobe has done, a lot of the commerce platforms. And so if you look at the work that people like me have done over the years, there's a new sort of like invention of technology, a new platform, and we then help companies take advantage of that. We design abilities for people to have e-commerce stores. They don't have to just have physical retailers. Or we create experiences that are location aware so that they can use their phone and kind of like have sort of richer experiences with brands. And then, of course, we're in a huge wave right now. I would actually argue it's more than a wave. It's a whole tidal shift here with artificial intelligence and all of the amazing things that can do, right? These sort of like experiences that can almost be a little bit more consultative with customers themselves, can actually help put sort of like more complex puzzle pieces together to help customers solve problems. And all of the crazy, wacky, fun stuff that can happen, right? And so that is a huge wave that's driving it right now. And so when you're a creative person, you have to be able to sort of figure out, how do I design on top of technology? How do I help people figure out the best use cases for these new technologies to help their customers, to help their business? And that's what's fun. It's a lot of inventing in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And then obviously the expansion that technology allows you, like the reach is just, you can literally watch what someone's doing across the world. Like,
Yeah.
the reach is insane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody's excited about lots of different kinds of things, but so a lot of what we do, because we're a big company, is help global brands create things that are going to be relevant for people in Argentina and in Atlanta and in Azerbaijan. There you go. I was going for 3 A's.
Yes.
And so what's fascinating about that is there's a lot of like a design system that can be universal, but the content has to be heavily regionalized, has to be appropriate for people in that area. And then the languages can be different. And so there's always this really interesting balance between what are the things that you have to design and hold true to and structure, and what are the things that you actually have to have either global scale to create regional versions of, or increasingly with AI, how do I train an LLM or some sort of AI model to create versions that are appropriate for different languages or different cultures? Yeah.
So right now, only part of it can be formulaic. Only part of it can be, all right, this works for humans, period, or this works for people, period, or this demographic, period. But there also has to be an element of, how do I make this for the person that lives in Buckhead, Atlanta, or the person that lives in,
it has to be valuable. And so right now we're in a really interesting tug of war. There's a lot of things I can do with technology that can kind of make it, I can sort of fake that it's actually appropriate for different audiences. But I think we kind of know when something is actually created for us, or just sort of like just whitewashing. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like if I have an article and all I do is I like swap out the photos in the article so it looks like someone in my area, but it's still written by like a white 52-year-old dude. You know. So that's the push and pull that's happening right now. But I'm excited at how powerful a lot of these technologies can kind of be. And ultimately what I'm guided by, again, is the same thing. It's like, it's a good idea if it really is more valuable to a customer than what you were doing before, right? Yeah. So if you think about the things that we're creating, we're trying to help these companies serve a lot of people in a more personalized way. All these people are very different, but I have to figure out a way they can do it at a scale that makes it affordable for them to be able to do it. And so that's the push and pull of what we're doing right now. And so a lot of things that you're sort of seeing that are generated by AI right now are kind of science experiment. They're pretty cool, and you can see limited use cases where they actually really work. But I would argue they aren't quite fulfilling that full value proposition. They're going to feel fake to a lot of people. And they're going to feel awkward to a lot of people. I had a really interesting conversation with a guy at South by Southwest who talks a lot about AI. And so basically the way he sort of describes the competition that's going on right now is it's not the best AI platform that's going to win. It's not the fastest. It's actually sort of a survival of the friendliest is what he talks about it. In other words, some of these interactions that you can have with AI are so awkward and so off-putting that I think that we sort of forget that people are the ones who actually have to interact with, whether it's like an AI agent or some sort of content that's created by AI, and that the models that are going to win are actually the ones that sort of are most empathetic to the people that are actually interacting with them and are in some ways the friendliest. He described it as, it's like if you look at the evolution of wolves into the cute sort of like puppies that we have today. It wasn't the mean, scary wolves that kind of like survived in mass. It was the cute beagle, right? And so that's kind of where we are right now with AI, I would argue. the ones that are going to win are the ones that are providing the most value, but the ones that are providing the most value in a way that feels the friendliest to all of us humans. Because those are the ones we're going to actually want to work with, and those are the ones we're going to interact with. And I don't care if the other ones are better. If they just make me feel weird about myself, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's also kind of scary to me because we're figuring out how to make AI so human-like, like so human-like.
Yeah.
So it's like when we actually keep going with AI and have it more in our homes and more in our lives, it'll be so human-like.
Sure. It already is. Like I would challenge all of your listeners to go to sesame.com and check out that voice generation system, that sort of like language. Like if you think about early conversational experiences like Alexa, you used to have this really sort of wonky electronic voice, and it's become more and more human. And now it can be Australian or British or Southern or whatever. But there still has always been sort of like our spidey sense is like beep, 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 beep. This is definitely AI generated. I'm telling you, listen to sesame.com. You have no idea that it is an artificially generated. It makes fun of you. It jokes. It's self-deprecating. It is cray-cray. Yeah. But yeah, I think what you're getting at is almost like the philosophical sort of like existential thing, which I think is a part of the survival of the friendliest bit. And so if you just sort of take it all the way back to my beginning in advertising, like if I am a brand and I create an experience that all of my customers think is a real person, and then they find out later that it's a bot, I think they're going to feel betrayed. And I think that they're going to feel a lot of anger toward my brand. And so to me, it's not like, can I do it? It's should I? And so we have to figure out, I think, the proper balance. I would argue a lot of these AI models that are going to be most effective are the ones that constantly remind you and me, human people with our meat brains, that I am talking to an AI person. And so it sort of puts me at ease. I never feel like this thing that I'm interacting with is trying to deceive me. But this is what we're going to find out together, sort of in our big adventure of life here. We're going to sort of see how far we can take this stuff, and at what point does it no longer feel valuable, and what point does it start to feel intrusive? And I think that'll be the breaking point. There you go. Deep philosophy here on the podcast.
So good. Oh my gosh, so good. Do you think that your parents' careers, your dad working for Kodak and your mom being a teacher, contributed greatly to who you are? Or do you, be honest, like what do you think about that?
Oh, totally. If you think about, so my dad was an engineer and was an engineer his whole life, so he made things. I think, and he loved to make things at home. And so we did all that stuff, soapbox derby with the Boy Scouts and all that kind of stuff. Sure. And then my mom was a public high school teacher, and she was super creative. She was a wonderful storyteller, and she was very, very interested in the world around her and loved to kind of teach and communicate with all of her students. And if you look at really, I would argue, what I do professionally and kind of what I have done my entire career, it's a combination of those things, right? It's communication, it's learning constantly from other people the way a teacher does. Being curious about the world around like a teacher. And it's like building things and experimenting and sort of like trying things and failing and trying things and succeeding like an engineer does.
What's like a normal day for Barry like?
Yeah.
A normal Tuesday.
So these days, because our business is so global, so many of my team are really virtual, that basically I am either working from my home office on Teams calls for many, 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 many hours a day, starting early, talking to members of my team or clients kind of around the world until the evening, or I'm traveling and I'm actually spending physical time with a client or with one of my teams in a workshop or some sort of experimentation. So I'm very seldom in an office these days. I do spend times in offices, but it tends to be more for like workshops. And so the change for me happened dramatically with the pandemic, as it did for a lot of people kind of doing this kind of work. We had a very strong office culture prior to the pandemic. And there's a lot of power, I think, in sort of having the ritual of coming together and being together and sort of having those collisions where you bump into people. And this is a very different way of working. So you have to kind of like schedule collisions, and you have to kind of schedule conversations with people that you might have an argument with, right? Because if you don't, then you're going to kind of miss out on the stuff that happened organically when you would bump into each other on the way to the bathroom in an office, right? And you need that. You need that friction and that conflict, I would argue. You know, pressure makes diamonds. And so we're trying to make some diamonds. But at the same time, it's wonderful because it allows me to work with people that don't just live here in Boston. It allows me to work with, you know, I put together a team that feels like a team that feels super tight, and they're in 6 different states plus Brazil. And it's a different dynamic. But I like to spend basically as much time as I can with our clients and with our teams in person. But I would say that a typical day for me is kind of spending a lot of time looking at cameras like these and sort of like, you know, a big sort of like Brady Bunch screen here where you see a lot of faces on Teams or Zoom or something. Yeah.
That's good that we can now, like, you can do that from your home. Like, that will always blow my mind. Like, you can talk to somebody from Brazil from your home office. Like,
yeah, it's good. I think it's if this was the only way I had ever worked in my career, I would not have liked it. I think what I like to sort of think about business and careers as sort of having chapters. And so I definitely benefited from all the chapters where I was in offices and where I was really tightly sort of like elbow to elbow with people. But I'm also benefiting quite a lot from this chapter here where I can be more virtual and then have very intentional time with clients or with members of the team. I've learned a lot from both of them, but yeah, they're all important.
Yeah. I always ask my guests about advice.
Yeah.
But your question is going to be pretty vague, so no pressure.
Okay.
So you've had to digest different demographics like forever, for a very long time.
Yeah.
And figure out like, okay, what works for this group of people, what works for that group of people, forever. Yeah. So I want to know what advice you have for somebody, because I feel like that's across so many different careers, platforms, industries. So what advice that you have for somebody that can work across all platforms and industries that they need to keep in mind while they figure out what works best for different demographics?
I guess I sort of go back to sort of the core principle so like, I don't consider myself an artist. I consider myself in being in the applied arts, which is just sort of, maybe I'm sort of like overly complimentary of what I do, but there's a difference between a sculptor and an architect, right? An architect makes sculpture that people live in and like cook dinner in and, you know, raise kids in. And so, I'm a designer and a creative writer in the same way. I'm not sort of like just telling stories or creating art. I'm trying to design things that are essentially tools for people. I want them to be beautiful, if that's helpful. I want them to be surprising and delightful, if that's helpful. But ultimately, there's a practical thing that I want the thing that I'm making to do for people. And the way that you do that well is that you spend a lot of time with the actual customers that are going to be buying the thing. And so it's called customer centricity. It's called about, and so one of the big things that I think it's important to do, no matter what sort of platform you're maybe designing on or what industry you're working within, is as much as you can kind of become an expert on the people that you're serving and the very different kinds of people that you're serving, I think it's going to bode well. It's not about being an expert in your own company and not about being an expert even on the products that your own company makes. I think that's dangerous for creative people. I think we have to be experts on the people and not sort of fall too in love with the products that we make, because there's always a way to make them better. And you know what? The customers know what they want, and that's how to make them better. So focus on that is the main thing that I would say. And don't focus on the technology. Don't focus on the products. Don't focus on the services. Identify what the customer needs are, like what are the problems that you really ought to try to figure out how to solve, and then look at your technology or look at your products and go like, is there a different way to kind of have this product or technology solve that problem for a customer? Yeah.
That was so good. That was so good.
Sure.
That was so good.
Yeah.
Focus on the people.
Focus on the people. People is important. The other thing to think about is, I think you've got to kind of recognize that you need to have a pretty sort of like diverse group of people who are talking to people. And what I mean by that is it's very easy for senior people like me to sort of spend a lot of time talking to other sort of senior people and be convinced that we sort of like understand all of the situation around the world. It's really important, I think, to have people on a team that kind of represent a lot of these different kinds of people, a lot of these different kind of cultures, and to get out of the office and spend a lot of time with customers, especially when you're designing something that has to be powerful around the world. I almost kind of call it like a UX safari. Like we try to get our clients to go to India and spend some time with the people who are actually using their products, and then go to Scandinavia and spend some time with the people who are using their products, and then go to the Midwest. And you're going to recognize that the value that all of these different folks derive from the product that you're making, some things might be universal, but some things might be very different. And you need to have that perspective. And so I think you can do that by doing these UX safaris yourself, but you can also do that by making sure that you're hiring people from around the world, people that come from different backgrounds around the world, and then can kind of bring that diversity of perspective into your thinking. That's another way to kind of cheat a way to be more customer centric. And the companies that fall apart and fail are the ones where, frankly, everybody looks the same. They don't really talk to people around the world. They're just convinced that they know, and they kind of go out with the one way. And invariably, they're going to get crushed by someone who's actually spent more time really understanding the customers.
Yes. Yes. That's all I have for you is yes.
I hope you weren't expecting me to be short and succinct.
No.
I'm not very good at that. Yeah.
We could go for hours. We could talk some more, Barry. But tell people how to connect with you on this camera, please.
If you're interested in sort of talking about how experience can transform your business, I mean, we'd love to talk to you. You can look me up on my LinkedIn page. You can find me at Barry Fiske on LinkedIn, or you can reach out through Merkle.com. You'll learn a lot about the stuff that Merkle does to help clients around the world. Small companies here in the U.S., medium companies in the U.S., and then big global companies. It's a lot of fun. I know we have a lot of people on the Merkle team who would love to talk to people. If anyone is interested in some of our consulting services, some of our advice on design and experience and technology, it'd be a lot of fun. It's a fun business. It's a crazy time to be doing what we're doing right now because AI is disrupting so much. But I would argue it's kind of always been a crazy time when you look at all the waves of technology you and I were just discussing, and you got to kind of ride them while they're hot.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right. You get to take advantage, and you're a pro at it. You've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
All right. So I always ask my guests this closing question.
Yes.
All right. I created this platform so people could learn.
Yeah.
I want people to learn about like the world themselves. Like knowledge is so important to me. Like I just want people to learn, and I want to learn, So I always ask people, what is one thing that you wish that more people knew? And that could be in regards to your business, the world, yourself, anything. What's something that you wish that more people knew?
That seems like it should be such an easy question, but it's actually kind of a hard question to me a little bit. I would just sort of say like more generally that I think the most successful leaders who everybody sort of like thinks knows exactly what they're doing, when you actually get to know them, they're often the most curious people who are constantly asking the most questions. And so to me, what I would sort of say is I feel like a lot of people, when they're looking at their career, they sort of think, I have to figure this thing out before I do this next thing, or I have to know this before I'm not ready to do this other thing. And I guess I wish more people knew that I don't think that anyone is ever ready for the next thing. That I think that what they are is brave enough to do it, and that most people really kind of learn on the job. They learn how to do the thing while they actually are in the thing. And that includes the most senior people out there. Like the CEOs of big companies are still often the most curious, talking to other business leaders, asking them how they are doing it, trying to figure out how they can do their job better. You can find great stuff, I think, with Steve Jobs talking about that, like how he basically, as sort of a technologist, learned how to run a company and learned business. And he's like, it's actually not that hard. You kind of learn while you're doing it. And I think more people ought to know that, because what I think would happen if more people knew that is more people would be brave. And more people would try to start a company or try sort of a new job or try a career change a little bit more frequently and a little bit sooner. And I think they'd be happier, because what they would find out is that they can do it and that there's actually an opportunity to learn while you're doing it. And that is kind of like the best way to succeed. So there you go. There's my answer.
This video is going to go crazy. Your answers are so good, Barry.
Yeah.
Thank you for spending time.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. Listen, I was thrilled when you reached out, and I hope this is helpful. Yeah, like I like to do this stuff because I'm really curious. I'm still trying to learn. I have my own podcast, as you know. You can check it out on whatbubblesup.com. What Bubbles Up on Spotify. But we also put out a lot of content as Merkle, across LinkedIn, across TikTok, across Instagram. And the reason I do that is because I find hosting a podcast, creating content like that, even in my own company, is an opportunity for me to learn more from the people that I work with. And certainly when I bring on guests on the podcast, I just learn so much from them, and I use it, believe me, in my everyday, in my, sort of day job. So it's a lot of fun. So I think that this is a learning adventure that we're all on professionally here. And the people who are going to be successful are the ones who remain ever curious.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so good. Thank you, Barry. We have to do this again.
All right. That would be fun. I'd love to come back on.
Yeah, we have to talk some more. We need 2 hours next time. No pressure.
2 hours? I don't think anyone wants a 2-hour podcast with me. No.
Yes.
No.
Thank you for watching if you watched. Thanks for listening if you listened. And you can catch Through with a Splash of Tea every Wednesday and Thursday on all streaming platforms. Bye now.